I want to box on the box rock and celluloid Botbrack for short. So I'm going to rank the Bond henchmen. This is quite a difficult thing to do. I actually went on another guy's site, SJP Promotions, I think he's called. He's really good. He actually ranks 36 of them because he kind of ranks every person who works in the villain in the organisation. But what I'm doing here is picking what I perceive as the key henchman, or the person who is at the side of the villain quite often, does the dirty work. So I've come up with 24. Why not 25? Well, of course, in Skyfall there is not a henchman. Weird thing in Skyfall, no henchman, and no Bond girl. M's the Bond girl, technically, or Bond woman. So number 24 is not too hard, really. It's Elvis from Quantum of Solace. Aside from having really shit hair, what does this guy do? He's just there to be tripped down some stairs by Agent Fields. Absolutely terrible. It's one of the many crap things about Quantum of Solace, and there's a lot of things that are crap about it. But the character of Elvis is one of them. Obviously, a secondary henchman and villain within this would be General Medrano, who's a more interesting character. But again, he's not strictly doing the bidding of the main villain. Okay, so I'm in a bit of higgly-piggly order. My next one here is Eric. Is it Eric Hessler? Or Kriegler from For Your Eyes Only. Excuse me if I've got that wrong. This is just another generic blonde villain. They start off with the Red Grant model, and then you get various generic blonde henchmen, some better than others, in the Bond films. This is a really weak one. The character of Emile Locke is far more interesting, but Eric's on hand in the final climax, and he clearly, doing Julian Glover's character Christos's bidding. So, yeah, and then he dies pretty pathetically as well. Just pretty bad. Again, not one of my favourite Bond films. It's kind of let down by poor villainy. Right, so number 22 is we've got Hans. It's another generic blonde villain. You only live twice. Now you could have Helga as well, the girl who's a kind of copy of the Fiona Volpe character. But again, Hans seems to be the guy who's kind of going to do the fisticuffs. And obviously Connery, there's quite a good fight actually when he flips him in the shark tank. But there's just no... they do need a bit of character development, these henchmen and henchwomen, because, they've got to feel a threat to Bond. And you've got to kind of take satisfaction when Bond offs them. If we don't know the characters, if they're generic, then we're just kind of like a bit meh. Again, You Only Live Twice is full of quite a few problems, but it looks amazing. Okay, so now we're at number 21. So I'm going for Alex Dimitrios in Casino Royale. Difficult one, this. I was kind of reticent whether to put this in or not. But Dimitrios, he has enough scenes that he does with Bond in the casino and the great scene at the airport where they kind of tussle over a knife, to put him in there. We never see him with Le Chiffre, and obviously he's part of the wider organisation, but he's about the best we can do with Casino Royale in terms of saying having a henchman. I think Mr. White is an interesting one. He's not in this list because Mr. White, although he works for the organisation, he feels more like a guy who'd have henchmen to do his bidding. People may disagree, but anyway, number 20. So this is a funny one. I'm just checking my numbers here, and it's Renard, Robert Carlyle. So this is a weird one. When Will's Not Enough was announced, it was clear Robert Carlyle's the villain. Everyone was excited. He's Begbie in Trainspotting. He's that mad guy in the cannibal film. It's going to be top. And then when it's building up his character, he's got a bullet in his brain, he can't feel pain. It sets him up. This is amazing. He's going to be a really great villain adversary for Bond. But in actual fact, as the narrative progresses, it's clear that Electra King has turned him and he's more like a henchman. Unfortunately, it never really explores his can't feel pain thing, and the writing and development of the character's kind of poorly done, and then he kind of gets impaled with some nuclear things. But I don't know, it's one of the great missed opportunities is the character Renard in Bond. And again, The World's Not Enough is not one of my favourite Bond films, and it has problems, and that Renard character is one of the people who maybe disagree that he's a henchman. I'm putting him as a henchman. He's kind of like the Red Grant character a bit. We'll come to that. Okay, next up, number 19, I'm going for Primo. Primo's the guy with the bionic eye in No Time to Die. So when you say that, you realise like how tonally insane No Time to Die is. It's the film, kills James Bond off. It's serious. He has a daughter, but it's also got a guy with a bionic eye, and they film a Spectre meeting and gas everyone. Anyway, I need to go back to that film. I haven't seen it since the pictures, make a new assessment of it. I think the character's pretty good. He's kind of involved there at the start, and right at the end he has that fight with Bond, and then Bond blows him up, his brain with Q's magnet watch. So he's not bad. He could be a lot worse. At least he's kind of quite memorable. So that's why he's in there. My next one, number 18, it's all getting these guys are a bit interchangeable, and it's another blonde behemoth. It's Mr. Stamper, Richard Stamper from Tomorrow Never Dies. So Dr. Kaufman was top. He's kind of a henchman. He could have been developed more, but he's just there to drug Paris Carver. So Mr. Stamper kind of takes over and has the fight with Bond at the end. Gotts Otto is the name of the actor. Again, just in that long line of blonde henchmen, and more looking like the Red Grant model, really, in terms of his kind of barrel-like build. He was like a father to me. He's okay. He's quite good fun. I would say from here on in, maybe from Primo, what's the word I'm looking for? The henchmen have all got something to offer. Okay, so number 17 is Mr. Hinks from Spectre, played by Dave Bastuta. Again, my criticism of Mr. Hinks is it just feels like the filmmakers are trying too hard to kind of get that kind of, I hate to use the word iconic, but that classic kind of Bond henchman back in the frame. It's quite interesting. He comes with a long nail, and for instance, he kind of gouges the guy's eyes out and completely messes him up. Obviously, Dave Bastuta looks good, but he's kind of a little too well known. I would have preferred if they'd kind of found some generic wrestling guy we didn't know, and didn't have as much sort of profile, like Dave Bastuta does from Guardians of the Galaxy. But Mr. Hinks, it doesn't totally work for me. And again, it's another problem with the Spectre film. It's a film that doesn't work for me. And this being one of the things, but fair play, the filmmakers were trying to bring back a great henchman. So my number 16 choice is kind of breaking the rules slightly here. This is a secondary henchman, but the main henchman in this doesn't come in to halfway through the film, and he's the second time he's a henchman, and he replaces this henchman is Chang in Moonraker. I think Chang gets a couple of really good scenes. The bit see some harm comes to him, and he speeds up the G-force thing, which is great fun. Roger all like, then he has a couple of scenes, and there's obviously he lets the dogs, sets the dogs off the Dobermans on the secretary. It was a really cruel scene after one of Roger's best scenes. You missed Mr. Bond, did I? And then they have the fight in Venice, which I think is a lot of fun, and then Roger, he falls through a piano, and of course Roger has to go play the gun, so... But I quite like Chang. I think he's as a secondary henchman, it's pretty good fun. And the great thing about this is I think it's one of the most hilarious scenes in all Bond is Hugo Drax is ringing up, oh, well, if you can get him, and it's like the appearances is there's an employment agency for henchmen, and he's ringing up, he's like, I've lost my henchman, he's been thrown into a piano from great height. Oh, what, Jaws? It's like... if it was the J.R. Hartley fly fishing advert, it would be, do you have Jaws? You do! Anyway, brilliant. I'm sorry for people who don't know about that. That's an old Yellow Pages advert. Okay, so number 15, I'm going for Professor Dent from Doctor No. Not the obvious henchman, but he is the guy who's he's quite interesting, Professor Dent. He's kind of like, imagine an academic who's like a really slimy twat. But he's actually kind of pretty craply equipped to kind of deal with things, and really I think his character's elevated not so much by his character but the two main scenes he's in. Obviously there's the meeting with Dr. No where it's just Dr. No's voice in the brilliant Ken Adams set. It was very good. I think Andy Dawson's very good. I think he plays the killer in Darling for Murder as well, don't quote us. But the other thing is he has the great scene with Connery. That's a Smith & Wesson who had his six, which is one of the very best scenes in any Bond film. If you're picking your best dozen Bond scenes or half dozen, I think that scene's got to go in there. Brilliant scene from the first one. It's one, they've never quite captured you know, tried in some ways, but brilliant scene. So Professor Dent is made kind of more important by his place in the plot, but by the scenes he's in. Okay, my number 14 is another blonde guy, but I think he's the best of the generic blondes, and it's Necros from The Living Daylights. I think what makes this guy stand out is he gets some good scenes. He's got his Walkman, and he's his Walkman as a garrote, and I think that makes him stand out. There's a bit where he's sat by the pool, and he's all muscly. He looks like he can handle himself, and I think in the climax with Timothy Dalton, when they're fighting, I think it's very good. I think both actors do well. I think there's good close-ups. He feels like a threat to Bond, and Timothy Dalton's Bond, has to use his wiliness and callousness to get a shot of him. So I quite like Necros. And you need him because the villains, the thing that lets The Living Daylights down is the villains, Joe Don Baker's character, and then Jerome Crabbe is far too sort of jovial. It kind of needs a more of a boohish villain. And although Necros is in it a lot, he does provide a little bit more. And this is the assassination scene on the other agent in Vienna as well, bringing a great reaction shot from Dalton. Okay, so my number 13 is Irma Blunt. So quite an interesting character, the female henchwoman. There's kind of another two main ones. She's not gonna, beat Bond up, but she does shoot Tracy at the end. But she's very much involved in all the goings on at Piz Glory, and she's very much Blofeld's right hand woman. The actress, I think, is very good. You're feeling all right, Mr. Bond? No, I forget what's his name. You're feeling all right, Sir Hillary? There's just a little stiffness coming on. Anyway. I think she's good, and when Blofeld's in the neck brace and she shoots Tracy at the end, it's good stuff. Okay, so that's number 13. Number 12. So this guy's pretty high up from a pretty terrible film, if we're honest. But I do think he's good. I think the actor's physically imposing. I think he handles his one line as well, and it's Zhao. So the actor's called Rick Yoon. And it's Die Another Day. So I think he's good. There is another guy called Mr. Kill, and he gets zapped by that robot thing, laser thing. He's a bit crap, Mr. Kill. But I do think Zhao's really good. He's good at the start. He's kind of cocky, imposing. And when he gets the diamonds blasting in his face, and he has the gene therapy, half done gene therapy work, he does look really good. The car chase thing's a bit naff. His sort of death, would have been better if they could have had a fisticuffs after the car chase or something. I always feel it's better when Bond kind of physically dispatches the henchman somehow, or close quarters. But I do think Zhao's one of the more successful things in Die Another Day. I probably wouldn't have said it, but I watched it recently. I thought, yeah, fair play. Zhao is good, and well done to Rick Yoon. So my next one, number 11, is Dario from License to Kill. So again, you can argue Milton Crest is a sort of a henchman. He's part of Sanchez's crew, but he's more the kind of business end of things. Dario's the guy who does the dirty work, and he's not in it a massive amount, Benicio del Toro. And it wasn't until later on, after seeing The Usual Suspects, when I went back and watched the film, I thought, oh God, that's Benicio del Toro. There's always a moment when you recognise an actor more. But I think what's interesting is how he makes his scenes count. The sadisticness, the nice honeymoon line is a total money shot line. The way he delivers that line, it's almost like the actor's recognised like it's a really juicy line that could come across, really antagonise Bond. I think it's really clever acting by Del Toro, and shows like how good he'll be. Then there's the bit obviously where he's trying to cut Bond's straps on his wrists, going into the cocaine pulping machine. And again, there's that sadisticness there. He's really taking his time, which he shouldn't do. But it's that thing where that's in his nature. So I think, it's a shame he's not in his mum, was very good. Benicio del Toro as Dario. So my number 10 now, I think we're really getting into the kind of quality henchmen and henchwomen here. So it's Gobinda from Octopussy. Watched this again recently, and every time I watch it, this character gets better. He's involved right at the start, right to the end. Obviously, there's a bit where he crushes the dice, which is kind of copying an Odd Job. But I think what's really good is right at the end, where the Louis Jourdan character asks him to get out on the plane. He goes out there, and he's got a shock on his face. He's very funny, and I think the actor does really well with that. He's physically sort of imposing. He can handle himself, but he's kind of like the guy. He's the henchman who can give orders to other henchmen as well. So he can kind of distribute the dirty work, delegate. So I really like him, and I think he's a successful character. And he you know, Octopus is a very flawed film in a lot of ways, but I do think he adds, you know, some quality to it. So number 9 is Mayday, Grace Jones. I think the reason she's up as high as Mayday is just Grace Jones is so striking. I think one of the successful parts of View to Kill as time's gone by, so I'm scratching my head, is like how good Christopher Walken is and how good Grace Jones is, and they're the two most successful things, along with Patrick McNee, that elevate that film a bit, because the film's really not very good and it could have been in a lot of trouble as a Bond film, but a lot of people have a lot of affection for it, I think, specifically for those characters. I think Mayday's really good, and the way she turns sides as well is believable to me. So I really, Grace Jones, you know, just an amazing 80s figure, and it's kind of stunt casting that works. So number 8 now, I'm going to go Fiona Volpe from Thunderball. Forget the name of the actress, apologies. It's really good. The first sort of woman henchman, and she does do all the do. She's got a rocket bike. She tries to get Bond killed at the carnival, and then he switches. There's a good bit where they sleep together. Very good. The actress is really powerful, and it's quite interesting how she looks a lot like the Claudine Ogre Domino character, but it's kind of, with the red hand, is stronger, and it kind of plays off well against Domino, the way Domino's kind of trapped in a way. But she's great. Of course, you got Vargas in this as a kind of secondary henchman. I think you got the point. Who's a bit of dirty work, and Count Lippe, Guy Dolman, earlier on in the film. But she's just very much involved in everything. A top Spectre operative. My next choice, number 7, is Knick Knack. Only kind of realised this today as I was watching, I think it's SJP Promotions I was telling you about, A Man with a Golden Gun, and Guy Hamilton intended Knick Knack as a reverse of Oddjob, and obviously Knick Knack's very short, but he's still at the bowler hat. And he could be a figure of comedy, but I think Hervé Villechaize makes it so he's not, and it's really interesting how, like, he's kind of working for Scaramanga, but he also kind of has an interest in Scaramanga being killed. So if you kill him, I'll be mine. Really good. Just really strong in the scenes. I love it. I always loved Knick Knack when I was a kid. Some people don't like the climax where he has to fight with Bond, but you know, I've got a soft spot for The Man with the Golden Gun. The strong points of that film, the locations, critically, Knick Knack, Maud Adams, really good. So I always loved Knick Knack. Number 6, the best female henchwoman, and it's Xenia Onatopp from GoldenEye. Famke Janssen, you know, was one of the first Bond actresses to really be able to build a proper career from being in a Bond film. You know, no one knew her. She'd just been in modelling, I think. She cast in that. She had a really strong career, and she continues to do. She's been in X-Men, other films, stuff like that. She's brilliant as Xenia. She's really quite mad. That's one of the things I find quite interesting, is she really goes for it with a kind of psychosexual thing. I think she maybe dies a bit too easily, and then she always did enjoy a good squeeze. But anyway, I think she's great. She's a real threat to Brosnan. She's a threat to people. She's very proactive and very much doing Sean Bean's, Alec Trevelyan's dirty work. So my number 5 is quite close. You know, it's maybe going to have Xenia high, but I always loved him in his Tee from Live and Let Die. So let's just address the sort of little elephant. You know, Baron Samedi's also a key. Jeffrey Holder, he's also a key henchman, and I really like him. But Teehee's the main guy with his pincers. Whisper's quite good as well. Love the scenes with this guy in, really good. And then there's the top climax as well, which is a lot of fun on a train. Great Bond stuff. And of course when he leaves Bond on the crocodiles and explains the story of his hand. Really, really good. Just really strong. Really good. Number 4, 2 of the funniest, 2 henchmen. It's Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd. They come as a pair. Okay, people may criticise the depiction of their gay relationship. Maybe it looks pretty prejudiced now, or maybe not prejudiced in the words, cliched. But very funny characters, and very, very witty, with that kind of dry humour. I love the climax, when they turn up with the cake and stuff. A bit of a scorpion, they kill a lady. They're just very, very funny. And Bruce Glover, the father of Crispin Glover, he was actually in Chinatown. And then Putter Smith, I think, he's actually a jazz musician. I don't know how much acting he did, but quite interesting the way that the cast, particularly Putter Smith with his crazy hair and his beard, not typical henchman, kind of very much of the 1970s, but it just really stood out for me. So number 3, I'm going for, and this is the guy who started it all really, with how you should have the opposite threats to Bond. Of course, it's Red Grant, Robert Shaw in Russia with Love, the blonde, barrel-chested thug. You've got Kronstein, you've got Rosa Klebb, but they're architects of the mission. They're working with Blofeld, Blofeld's Harpies delegated to them to do this. So Red Grant's the one doing the dirty work. So even though Shaw's kind of like the Clee villain, doing most of the villainy, most of the scenes of that, he is the henchman. And Rosa Klebb, I would always class Rosa Klebb as the key villain. Other people can disagree with this. Needs no introduction, probably one of the best, very best actors to play any part in Bond ever. Getting Robert Shaw that time before stardom and stuff, really, really good. Brilliant in his scenes, and it just always there in the shadows, generally menacing, and that's something I could explore again. Really, a kind of almost a hitman. It's something that didn't quite have with Scaramanga, but you could have almost a kind of hitman kind of following Bond, and that kind of figure. So number 2, well, it's going to be between 2. So anyway, my number 2 choice is Jaws. Loved the mixture. This is for Spy Love Me, not Moonraker, but for the Spy Love Me, a great mixture of comedy and menace. This perfect balance. When I was a kid, generally frightening when he kills Max Goberzer, I forget his name now, in the sort of telephone box. Really good, and there's that bit where he walks along and then he's kind of like Frankenstein's monster and he flashes his teeth. Just lots of good humour there, a really good mix. Richard Kilgrave, really good mix with Roger Moore, like top bloke apparently. Still liked him in Moonraker, he's just made him a bit more of a figure of fun. Anyway, but, he was so popular, brought him back. Brilliant. So my number 1, of course, is Odd Job. Probably the classic henchman. I think the difference between Red Grant coming before, his villainy staying since is less henchman-like. But also Odd Job is having that quirk. Red Grant doesn't really have a quirk, but Odd Job's got his hat, he's mute. I still love the bit where at the golf club and Goldfinger clicks his finger. It's got one of my favourite musical cues by John Barry, and he throws the hat. That's absolutely brilliant. But I love the fight, where he goes Bond, he does that smile, it's really creepy. Bond can't, he has to use his wits to take him out. You're not going to take him one-on-one. His threat is huge. There's a great bit where he kills a guy, takes him to the car crusher, he's just kind of, impassive. Amazing, and have never, for me, a henchman's never come close. And the other henchmen, I've all like the ones I've all discussed, but Odd Job's quite a bit above. Only Jaws comes close, but it's that little bit of comedy with Jaws. There's no comedy with Odd Job, put it that way. You don't want to mess with that guy. So there's my Bond henchman ranked. Hope you enjoyed that. Probably not many surprises there. See you again. Remember, share and subscribe, and I'll catch you again soon. Thanks.